Gentlemen, we are at the Take It Deep podcast. This is May 28th. I am back with Alex Trezza, Virgil Vasquez, and California Jim, who is a regular on the show. Gentlemen, it's great to see everyone. What we are going to do from now on the Take It Deep podcast is we are branching out in a sense, and we are going to start the Everyday Throwing Show. We will be doing weekly installments and talking all things throwing, since all of us do work in the field. Obviously, Virgil working at the professional level with the Minnesota Twins. Alex, former groomsman in my wedding. I always throw that in because it's probably his greatest accomplishment to date. Is the associate head coach at Boston College. Played 10 years of professional baseball. Jim Vatcher, president of Jaeger Sports, located in sunny California. Also appeared in the big leagues, 3 different teams. None of that matters, though. He was a teammate of mine. That was the best thing he ever did. So we all kind of have our hand in the hat in terms of throwing. So the Everyday Throwing Show, this will be the inaugural episode. We will be doing more on a weekly basis and talking all things throwing, having a variety of guests from the field in the area. Gentlemen, thanks for coming on again. I hope everyone's doing well. I know we're still in the midst of a pretty crazy time, and I think that throwing is becoming something that our athletes can do, and it's probably one of the most easiest things they can do, right? If in terms of facility-wise, maybe not having places to hit, maybe not getting defensive work in, but throwing, pitchers, it's obvious that's a need. But even our position players and every athlete in our sport. So to really hone in on throwing and talk about it, I think is very important at a time like this. No one is playing baseball. MLB is still winding through what they're going to try and do. The minor league levels, the college levels are shut down for now. So we're going to talk about this every week and hopefully share some things that will help people, enlighten people, and really just have fun with the topic that I know we, like I said, are all heavily invested in. To jump right in, last episode, we discussed a little bit about, obviously, Jaeger Sports, a little bit of their creation, a little bit of how they started, as well as the Revolution Throwing, which is a brand new company, which has a great product out. It really centers on arm path, which we'll get to. But Jim, we're going to start with you first. We're going to go a little deeper now into the whole organic growth of your company. I know Alan Jaeger personally. I know obviously you very well. When did you guys just sit down and say, okay, let's create something like this? I mean, obviously there was an emphasis on arm care, arm health. Alan was one of the pioneers of long toss, you as well. So how did that whole thing start? And kind of give us as much of a timeline as you can, all the way fast forward today where your products are in Dick's Sporting Goods. It's a major distribution at this point, and it's super successful, and it's being used by a lot of athletes. So kind of take us from when you planted the seed now to the tree is flourishing and growing. That's kind of a California thing, I think, right? A little left coast for you, right?
Sure.
So
yeah, I like that.
Take us from start to finish as best you can.
As best I can. Well, the J-band was actually invented by a guy named Perry Husband, who's out here in LA area. He has Hitting as a Guess website. He's done effective velocity. I don't know if you guys heard that term, but he coined the phrase. He's a genius, this guy. He's a genius baseball guy. Some point he made this thing, he called it a Y-solator, because it looks like a Y, and he was trying to isolate the rotator cuff. At some point in the early 90s, Alan saw this. He loved it. Alan was always about long toss. We met, actually, the beginning of Jaeger Sports really was in college at Cal State Northridge in 1986, 87. I met Alan, and I didn't know who he was, but the first day I asked, hey, does anyone like to throw it as far as they can and for as long as they can? And he raised his hand, and we met that way. And that was kind of the beginning of Jaeger Sports without us knowing it, just because we both loved long toss instinctually. So Alan saw this Y-solator. We took it over in the mid 90s, more or less. And it was a slow process. We had to cold call high school coaches and ask if we could come by their practice at the end of practice, talk to their kids about our program, about our summer camp, our winter camp, where we showed the J-band workout and the long toss. And it was a lot of stuff like that. We traveled the country doing clinics. We had some really good clinics. We had some very interesting clinics, like when we're in, Valparaiso, Indiana, and they're promising 80 kids, and there's 6 kids, and same thing in El Paso, Texas. We were in another city where we had 6 kids and a fencer, not even a baseball player, a fencer.
How was his breaking ball?
It was great. It was great. But we had a fencer at one of our clinics. It was a long, slow process. And like I said, Alan spoke at the ABCA show in front of 4,000 coaches. And even after that, it takes a long time for people to really buy into it. Finally, we had enough people, enough players over the years that were having major success, that were telling their coaches, hey man, my arm feels great. I've been doing this program. I've been long tossing. And we basically kind of overtook organizations with just numbers, straight numbers. It was a 20-year, 25-year process. It was a very slow curve that was very flat for a long period of time. And then it started to take off. And once it takes off, people like Dick's Sporting Goods gets interested. And, we're in Dick's Sporting Goods. It's pretty cool. Selling a lot of these bands. You go all over the country, you see these things hanging from a fence. It blows my mind because when we started, no one knew of us. We had Barry Zito, who was a famous student. He won the Cy Young in 2002. And we kind of thought we would explode at that point. One of our students won the Cy Young Award that does our program, does J-bands, does long toss. Didn't matter. It didn't matter. Just didn't matter. It took so much time of just getting out in front of people. Now you have social media, which is great. We didn't have that then. But still, even in this day of social media, if you can get out in front of people and connect with people, talk to them, and show them the program, it's a very grassroots effort. It took a long time, but look, there's no path to instant success. You see your favorite group, at some point they had years and years of grinding it out. Baseball players that you see in the big leagues, you think, oh, they just showed up here. No, there's years and years of grinding it out. And that's basically what our business was, years and years of just grinding it out. And eventually people just had a lot of success, and it grew by word of mouth.
It worked, right? It worked. So
it worked.
It worked because you don't have to prove it. It's just like, hey, try this. Oh, you like the feeling? It works, and
that's what it was. That's
exactly. I remember where was I? It was one I know I saw Joel Zumaya. You made a custom one because I played with Zumi, and I was like, dang, like all right, it's starting to catch because you just love the way you feel after using it. Your body's warm. You feel a little stretched. There's so many different ways you can use it. It's all about your intention. You can train movement or you can train bad movement, but it's really about, the way you feel. It's a really good product too. I had a question about manufacturing. Like you guys are moving through this and, part of developing a product is your relationships and getting it out there, but you also have to have the product. How hard was it hard for that? Or did that always kind of just naturally, did you guys pick it up from husband?
Yeah. Husband was making them by hand in his garage. And he never wanted to make another one of these the rest of his life. And that's basically when we took it over. And so we found a company in Ohio that has a factory in Mexico. And I remember their minimum order was 250 of these. And so we ordered 250. They showed up in our office. I'm looking at, 6 boxes of these things, 7 boxes, whatever it was. And I'm thinking, how are we ever going to get rid of these things? They're going to be, we sell one a month. How am I going to get rid of 250? And so it's pretty cool. We send out on a hot day in August when colleges are going back. I don't know what's going to happen this August, but we could send out 1,000 in one day. And just,
wow.
So it's pretty cool. This, it's the evolution of 250 kind of getting our heart rate up to, so we have to stay on top of inventory. It's the same company that we started with. We still work with them, So I just sent them a simple email. I need this many in this color, and they send them out. It takes about a month, and we store them in the office. We don't have a ship. Every band that goes out, I'm basically, it's one of a couple people that are sending these things out. And I send bands out all the time to this day. And I have a lot of pride every time I package one of these and send it out into the world. I hope the best for the person that just ordered this.
So Jim, what do you think the resistance was at first? Was it getting out of that box of being trying to shy away from long toss? Was that the issue? Was the issue that organizations, coaches, whoever it is, didn't want their athletes throwing as far as they can, and they were just stuck in that box of kind of keeping them to 80 feet, 90 feet, 120 max? Was that the big resistance at first?
Well, ironically, back in the day, the 50s, 60s, or whatever, Alan would talk to these old timers, and they said, yeah, I threw it as far as I could. It was just instinctually. You went out and threw. Right around the time we were starting to start our business, the baseball world changed. Guys were signing right around the early 90s. They were signing for a lot of money, and organizations were hiring trainers and or kind of specialty trainers, strength and conditioning guys. And the medical world was coming into play at that point. And so they got really conservative at that time because they just would give a kid a lot of money. They were kind of scared, and they adopted a rehab throwing program. It was basically a rehab throwing program that they adopted in professional baseball for their training program for their players, because they figured, well, this will keep them safe, because this is what Dr. Job and all these famous doctors are prescribing to how to get your arm healthy. But that rehab is totally different than training. And so right around the time when we were kind of preaching long toss, they were preaching, look, you have 10 minutes to throw max for the most part. We have cones set up at 60 feet, 90 feet, and 120. You're not going farther than 120 because that's what the rehab said. And you're going to have a certain amount of throws at these distances. It doesn't work for training. I remember in my tryout in Little League when I was 8 years old, I threw at 120 feet. As an 8-year-old, my first throw, I remember it. I was one of the farther throwers, 120 feet. You're training major league athletes, major league pitchers, and at 120 feet. That's good training for an 8-year-old, but not training for a professional athlete. So that was basically where we bumped heads for years. We went and spoke in front of organizations, the Houston Astros. You could always tell who the trainers were in the room. We were speaking in front of all these coaches, and the medical staff just they had their arms crossed, and they just couldn't have been more disgusted by us. They hated us. It was brutal, but it was kind of entertaining at the same time. It was kind of funny too, because at the time the Houston Astros had Roger Clemens and Andy Pettitte on the team that we knew were long toss animals. They were their two best pitchers. They were the two best pitchers in the league in baseball for the most part. And it's like, no, we're not buying into any of this stuff. So that was basically it. It was right around the time when baseball got very medical and very conservative.
So Virgil and Alex, for that matter, you guys played at the pro level kind of around that time. What were your experiences with throwing? And obviously, Virgil a little different than Alex between pitching and position player. But Virgil, what was when you first got drafted, first got on your way in pro ball? Were there restrictions, or what was your experience right away?
So when I was drafted, I had a question. I had one more question I want to ask about Job, but yeah, when I got drafted, I remember in spring training they didn't give us enough time to throw. So they gave you 10 minutes to throw. I need 20. I'm like, this is the only thing I need to do. Like, all the other stuff is to not waste time, but it's like, this is the most important thing.
Right.
So they gave us 10 minutes to throw. So I would go out before stretch at like, stretches at 8 o'clock, 8:30, whatever it was. It was early back in the day. Now it's 9 or 10. I would go out and I play long toss. I go, let's go home. And the Tigers weren't so strict. But I remember going to other organizations. They had the cones, the 10 minutes. And like, by the time you're done, you're like, okay, I'm ready to start throwing. And so, you saw it. But one thing I wanted to ask Jim was, Job started coming into the picture right when I was in college, high school, college, like 2000 area. Do you think those little exercises helped you guys? Because he started focusing on rotator movements and, because then I don't know, I feel there's a conversation around that with the J bands.
Yeah, it may have, but that was more a rehab type of thing.
True.
We called our thing prehab. We were really the first to bring it to the field. You're going to do this before you threw. The exercises, the Job exercises, any tubing was in a training room, and it was for guys that were rehabbing. I don't think many healthy guys were going in there to do a workout. We were one of the first that I know of that put it in a workout program to let's cut out the middleman being the surgeon. Let's just forget about him. Let's not see him. Let's do all the exercises that a doctor would give you to get your arms strong again, but let's do it before we have the surgery, right? Let's just stay healthy, and let's not go through that trauma. And so that was kind of our vibe, prehab rather than rehab. So it really, like I said, was in the training room. That's where you would see bands and where you'd see Job exercise. It wasn't like guys on the field doing it as kind of a strength thing right before they threw in a warm-up.
So, Alex, you played for a couple different organizations at a few levels in minor league baseball. What was your experience throwing-wise for position players? I mean, if the pitchers are getting 10 minutes, we might as well give you guys 4 minutes, right? Like, that's probably as absurd as that sounds to me. If you're giving your pitchers, who the most important thing, as Virgil said, is for your day is to throw a baseball, work on delivery, work on mechanics. I can imagine. So what were you experiencing as a position guy?
Well, Virgil and I started out in the same organization, right? So we were with Detroit, and they weren't super strict, but I distinctly, two things I remember, well, really three things. One, guys like Virgil sneaking away to throw so that they can get enough throwing in or go back and throw after. That's one thing for sure. And being a catcher, like I was around those guys, right? So I saw that. The other thing was with the position players, it was like throw as quick as possible so we can start our stations. So that was like, oh my God, like you got to get this thing going, And then the third thing was, for me, I think I got lucky as a catcher because, and I work with our catchers too now at the college level. I long tossed every day because I warmed up the pitcher every single day. And as far as he went, I went. And, these guys now, some of my guys even, they're like, I can't do it every day. And I was like, I long tossed every day. I literally never had any trouble with my arm whatsoever. So there's obviously a major piece of that now, like the intensity some days, like, some days I was a little sore, a little tender or what have you, but it never hurt. I just would go higher and stretch further. And, I adjusted that, but I was lucky in a sense that I was with the pitchers who were long tossing every day.
Do you guys feel from your experience that this could have potentially derailed a lot of guys you played with? And Jim, you and I have talked about in the past, at the big league level for you as a position player, you're on your own for the most part. And you had a tough time finding guys that wanted to do that and throw the way you wanted to throw every day. And it seemed like from what you explained to me, it got less and less as every level you rose up, the throwing became less and less in a sense.
Yeah, every level was a little harder to find someone to long toss with. Guys had the mentality, I think in the big leagues especially, that I'm paid to hit type of thing. Especially if they had a contract or a long-term contract, there wasn't a whole lot of pride in their arm. I remember watching now you can watch games all the time. They're showing them all the time from the past. But I remember seeing a game from the past, the Cincinnati Reds. I think George Foster was in left field. And it was in the mid-'70s, and there was a deep fly ball to him. And he just threw a missile home. And it took me off guard because I've been watching baseball, present day baseball up to that point. And it literally took me off guard. It's like, wow, a left fielder can throw. Look, the game is won on defense half the time. It's half the game. It is a lost art for sure, the throwing. There's certain guys that take pride in it, the Ichiros of the world. There's certain guys that take pride in it. But look, those throws are going to win or lose games. You know, they're going to win or lose games. To me, if I threw a guy out at home plate from the outfield, I looked at it like a 3-run home run, because that's what it felt like to me. I'm erasing 1 run off the plate for sure, and I'm killing a rally, because a lot of times these throws are coming in offline. The hitter is on second, the other guy's on third, 1 run's in, a bloop single later, you're down 3 runs on a play where if you throw accurately and strong to home, you can get somebody out. But I could find 1 guy per team, usually to long toss with me, and me and him had the strongest arms on the team by far, every time.
And Virgil, from your perspective, when you get to the big leagues, you're a pitcher, and now actually coaching in the minor league level. How does it work where you're in the bigs, you have your pitching coach, obviously. How much leeway did you have? How much leeway did you have, even as a young guy, as a rookie, at that level, to say, okay, this is what I need to do to prepare for my starts, to make sure that my arm is right? What was that experience like?
Well, we had total freedom. It was like minor leagues. It was like pants up, wear stirrups, no facial hair except the mustache. You get to the big leagues, it's like the floodgates open. You can do anything you want. Like, you made it. Do anything you want, you know? But like, my throwing program was different because I counted every throw. It was at a distance. It had a purpose. Every throw was counted. And also, I didn't throw efficiently now I know what I know. And my shoulder took a little longer to recover. So like, my bullpens weren't 100%. They were at 60, 70%, you know, and it was just about just feel and touch. It never was hard. So mine was different. It was like, you know, you had game day, and then I had my next day routine, and it took, you know, whatever years to dial that in, because every throw was counted. Everything had a purpose. And it was like, everything was so that on game day I was fresh and ready. It was like, when I was game, I didn't have to think about anything. I'm thinking my body. I didn't have to worry about anything. It was all about, I knew exactly how I was going to feel, how much sleep I got, what I ate, just like, you know, I did what I needed.
I remember when he got called up, he had such a long warm up. I remember, so the first time he has a start, whatever. And the second time out, I remember watching it, and they were like, this guy was out there at 5:30 for a 7:05 game, and he was doing yoga and Tai Chi, and then they couldn't believe how long he was throwing. It was so funny. I remember like yesterday, it was hysterical.
So it was a 55-minute warm up, right? So in the big leagues, you don't have a pitcher doesn't come out. They're like, there's a rule that like you have to be out 30 minutes before the game. I'm like, a rule? Like, I'm an hour. Like, I would go out an hour, and like, my pitching coach in the big leagues with the Pirates looked down upon me because of how I warmed up. He like didn't like it. He like, he didn't like the way I worked, because I was just so diligent and I was so prepared. And I don't know what it was. So I ended up like, I remember at the end of my Pirates, I was like warming up in the weight room because he didn't like it. And it like changed my career. I remember our shortstop Sanchez, he's like, why are you in here? He's like, because my pitching coach doesn't like the way I warm up. He's like, don't listen to that guy. Go warm up. Get ready for the game. You're in the big leagues. Like, you know, so like a pitching coach can really, like, you really changed me in a kind of a negative way, because I wasn't allowed to just do what I did and express myself in the way I trained myself for years. So
now where you are now, I'm sure you took things with you and realized what didn't work for you, what did. Give us a quick snapshot. We've talked off air. Your pitchers at your level with the Minnesota Twins in the minor leagues, you're gearing guys up to go every 6th day as a starting pitcher.
In A-ball, yeah.
In A-ball. So what does that day entail? Like, you have your game day, and then what does the next 5 days look like in terms of routine? You don't have to go super detailed, just kind of a sketch of it to get you ready for that next one.
Yeah, I'll give you a sketch, and I want to talk about catch play for a moment. But so it was like the day after, since we give them an extra day because it takes away, I think, 5 starts. So it's just a little less innings. So that's why I have six-man rotations in A-ball. But it was like the next day they could play light catch or no catch. So, it's the first time they're like kind of pushing this new regime is like, we're pushing days off. Like, hey, take a day off if you want it or play catch. Like, it's on you. And then in the first half of the season, we threw 2 bullpens. So it'd be like, take a day off for light catch. And then it was like either a light bullpen or a regular bullpen. And then a light day catch or, and then on the bullpens days, you're kind of stretching it out a little bit. So you kind of put the workload in the mound days. And then the 5th day or the 4th day, you touch the mound again. And so they get to pick one of them as a short box or a lighter one. So we throw a 2-up bullpen and then a 1-up bullpen. And then the day before is pretty much just spin work and grips. But one thing about catch is like, I love teaching catch play. And one thing I did this year that I will do forever, and me and Alex talk about it, is I thought about why did I love the off season? Because it was one-on-one. Like, it's one-on-one. And in pro ball, or I don't know, in other places, like you play catch on a line and you're throwing and the coach comes up to you and he's like, hey, try this. And you're like, he hasn't talked to you all day, or, like maybe you're like, man, I'm already working on something. What are you talking about? So what I did was I scheduled out 30 to 20-minute sessions with 3 guys a day. And I would go out and I'd play catch with them. I'd be like, hey, here you go. Hey, let's play catch. And I just watched the routine. I watched their warm-up throws. I watched how their movement patterns are. I watched how their effort level, how far they go back, how quick they work in. All of that is telling us something about how focused they are. And one thing that I added to everybody was a target. So I stand there because one of the biggest things you see in catch plays, everybody misses arm side. Arm side, everybody. When I was in rookie ball, everyone missed arm side. So what I did is I gave them a glove side target, and I said, you just cannot miss. If you cut my body in half, you're not allowed to miss glove side. You can throw the ball off the wall over there, but you can't miss this far because the width of your body is about the width of a plate. So I'd give them a target, and they go, boom, boom. And they go over here. No, you don't do it. And just this little thing, like, it changed the game. I suck because if you're here, like they said, I can't get there with a changeup. So I'd leave the glove there, but I'd move my body like this. And then like, it's just perception. Finish the changeup and get it here. Finish the slider, get it here. Like, because in Tai Chi, they say, if you master one movement, you master all the movements. So if you master one location, you can have all the locations. And so like, you're really understanding repeating and shape and different things, but adding a target and being a good receiver in catch play is as important as your intention in throwing. Is something that I've learned.
So Alex, going back now to your level, okay, high Division I, you guys get that extra day from start to start for the most part, right? It's a 7-day cycle. How does that map out? There's obviously that extra day in there. What's your daily? It's your start day, and then is it similar, or what are we doing day to day?
It's very similar, and let's be honest, right? I was a catcher, right? So I learned this by watching it and sitting next to my pitching coach and managers through my career. And then to be honest, I learned a ton from you, Chris, and a ton from Virgil in the last, bunch of years as well. And, mine is our routine is very similar to what Virgil said. And my guys are actually, a lot of my guys are surprised, especially the freshmen who get on campus, because I give them some autonomy. I say, let's sit down. What do you like to do? I have some guys that like to long toss the day after they throw 100 pitches, right? Some of my starters. And I have guys that don't want to pick up the baseball at all. And we talk about the reasons why. And we'll always try different things, but those personal listen to your arm type days for me are the most important thing for my guys. I don't want to tell them they have to throw, a short box, right? Or a touch and feel off the bump if they don't feel good about that. My number one starter, he's never sore ever. He's long tossing the day after he starts. He's throwing a light, not light. Honestly, I have to, pull him back sometimes. The day before, he wants to get on the mound and feel off the mound almost at 100%. But he's a horse, so he's different than some other guys. I have other guys that are they're more sore the day after. So I think our guys, I want them to long toss as much as they possibly can, going back to Vatch and Jaeger and their whole idea of that. But I talk to our guys about different intensities at long toss. You know, one day is just throw it as hard as you can, as far as you can, and let it eat. And other days are throw it as far as you can with stretch and a little bit lighter long toss. And then there's a kind of a middle of the road. You know, so for me, at least the 2 days, you know, the start day, they're letting it eat as far as they can go, and then, you know, pulling down as they come back in and get on the bump. And on the bullpen day, that's a day that's similar to that. So in between that, there's got to be 1 or 2 days where it's maybe lighter, but it's still long. They're stretching, you know, they're letting their body kind of sync up and get out there. And then to Virgil's point, the play and catch thing has been huge. And Chris, you've been a huge influence on what I do with my guys, and so has Virgil now, with the catch play and the target, and just the focus on every single throw. You know, it's a really fine line in college, because I want to give my guys as much exploration as I can to do what exactly they feel like they need. But I got, you know, I'm always on. I'll be yelling across the field sometimes, like, no, that's not it, get glove side. And, you know, so there's this really fine line of letting them do what they think they need to do, but, you know, have them laser focused on playing catch every day and taking care of the thing that's most important, like we talked about at the beginning, that's playing catch and throwing the baseball.
So I want to get to the arm path and the whole concept behind it. But before we do that, Jim, with your products and what you guys are doing with the arm circles and obviously your J bands, correct me if I'm wrong, that is mainly focused on pre-throwing in a sense, right? Between the arm circle routines, the J band work is to be done for the most part. But how do you guys kind of work that into a program? Just in again, it doesn't have to be super detailed, but how do you work it all in pre-throw? And is there something to do on the back end, or what do you guys really want to get across to people with your product and the way your philosophy of what you do with it?
Yeah, so it's a warm up for sure. It's a stretch beforehand. So you're doing this before you throw every single time. So that's number one. You're doing it before you throw every single time. Now, like for me, just give an example of a Sunday league pitcher. After I was done playing professionally, I played Sunday league ball. And so my routine was this. I long tossed the day of my start. Well, first I did my arm circles, my band workout on a Sunday, and long toss as far as I could. And I was like Virgil, I was out there very early. I had to bring 2 hats to the game because when I was looking in for my first sign, I was dripping off the bill of my cap. I was that warmed up. So I'm all about that, Virgil, warming up like that. I love that. I was dripping wet before I threw my first pitch. And so I would bring 2 hats to the game. And then I would take a day off on Monday. And then Tuesday, I would do arm circles and band workout. Wednesday, arm circles and band workout. Thursday, arm circles and band workout. Friday, arm circles and band workout. Saturday, I would take off. Sunday, arm circles, band work, long toss. Now, I would have liked to have put another long toss day in there, but I was working full time. But that's kind of what we're talking about. It's keeping the arm healthy, strong, loose. There's times where I'm doing my band workout and I feel like a good little pop in there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm getting that out of the way before I actually pick up and throw, you know? I don't want to experience that when I'm throwing. There's days where it's freezing cold out. And this is very important. There's days where you haven't thrown in months. And this is a huge step in building the base. Look, when I played professional as an outfielder and it was mid-season, I didn't have this band at that time. It wasn't even invented. I was in a great place and I could get loose. It felt I long tossed as far as I could, but I could get to that farthest distance very quickly. And as Alex knows, as a position player, when you're in great shape, middle of the season, you can get in shape very quickly. But there's times when you are getting in shape and you know, it's the off season. Now you're starting to get in shape. This program is critical. It's critical to do the band workout and not just go out and throw. And the tendency is to go out and throw too far, too fast, too hard right away. And we're all about easing into it, building the base, and having a base with the band workout.
So we have we have the idea of what we want to do pre-throw. We have the idea that you need time, and those 10 minutes on spring training days and that 20 minutes, 28 minutes pre-game just isn't enough for everybody, which I agree with 1,000%. I have guys that are on both ends of those spectrum as well. But I want to get into now with Revolution Throwing and the perfect throw. We see the product next to you, Virgil. And it does center obviously on the idea of a correct arm path, and probably maximizing arm path, I guess I would say. What were some of the things that you noticed, and when did you notice them? Did you notice them with yourself, with the guys you coached, maybe guys you played with? What were some of the things that you and Alex pretty much identified as arm path issues that you could potentially correct with your product and help guys with? Were there major flaws that you were seeing or experiencing, or how did that all come about?
Yeah, well, like we discussed in the first one, and it starts with the experience. So me and Alex, like I had the experience of going from one to the other, like the non-efficient to the efficient arm path and sequenced body to that would power the arm path. And Alex went from, man, I do it right, and then whoa, now I know why I do it. So the biggest thing that we saw was guys, their body is going away from their arm. Like they lift and go, right? So it's a 1-2 movement, but the throw is actually a 1-2-3 movement. It's a lift in go. And so we saw the habits start, like for me and Alex, like we saw habits like, okay, what do you learn when you're a kid? Where does this start? All right, you start in the, thumb to the thigh, ball to the sky. And then the first movement is the ball like goes away from you as your body's moving away. So there's this body ball moving away from each other rather than the ball is moving inside of the body with the body. All right. So there's like, that's the biggest thing we saw. So as we developed the perfect throw, we're like, okay, we're going to start with the arm path. We're going to develop this arm path, and then the body is going to sequence that, right? The body is going to understand how close it needs to be, because now there's an elongated shaft, which now you have to wait for it to turn, right? So like we developed this because I was teaching a guy that went from catching to pitching, and I tried all these different things, and he would always turn too early. He's always turning away, lifting and turning. So I gave him this device, and now he couldn't turn because he'd hit himself in the shoulder. So now like the drill is the instruction. Now you have to wait, ball passes your spine, now turn. And then you're like, whoa, okay, it's effortless. I feel it. Alex, we were talking about a little bit earlier about going from top down versus bottom up.
Yeah. That's perfect. That's what we talk about all the time when we're trying to explain and give information. But that was the other thing we were seeing. We're seeing that like as soon as a pitching coach or a throwing coach gets with a guy, he's like, we got to fix the lower half. We got to fix the lower half. And we're like, the last thing they're talking about is arm path. Like, you know what I mean? They're like, oh, your hips are flying or whatever it may be. And we're like, can we focus on the thing that has the ball in their hand, like for 5 minutes and see if that can sync the body? So we started to talk about how the arm path works. And as the arm starts to sync up, now the hips start to sync up, and then the legs start to sync up. And then all of a sudden there's that aha moment that we're talking about. We call it the rev, but what's happening behind your back as you're starting to turn, and then whoosh, it powers the throw through release. So we started taking the top down type of philosophy when we're looking at, how guys are throwing. And there's this, like, it's this weird thing. And being a hitter, I don't know if I see it clearer, but like when I'm hitting, I'm waiting for the pitcher to throw me the ball, but I want to go so bad. I just want to go. And in throwing, especially on the mound, like, I have guys that don't understand that you can wait as long as you want. Like, you're in control of what's happening. Wait, boom, let the body power the throw. And now you put them on a slope and they want to go even faster. And now the front's pulling and the ball's going away. And then it's just like an ouch moment, and it's just not in sync. So, it's just about that patience and letting the body kind of take over. And then when the sequencing and timing and that kind of synergy happens, for me, it was like hitting a line drive. It doesn't feel like anything. And you're like, whoa, so that moment for us when these guys are able to feel it and then understand it and then try to repeat that over and over, that's been the fun part for me and Virg.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a hitting version, the pitching version of seeing it deep as a hitter, right? Like
more or less, yeah.
Right? Like
yeah.
Just that patient idea, and
Yeah. But you know what? In relation to what? Like I always have, the hitting coaches say, let it get deeper. In relation to what? I don't understand what that means. Deeper how? Like, and you understand that, but explain to me what deep is. Like, how can I feel my body be strongest and then make my move and not, just fly and let the back go backwards and then around, or the arm go backwards and then be inefficient. So same type of thing. Yeah.
And one thing we see in throwing is for say you're on time. And so what we learned was a lot of the on time is I'm on time, like to release the ball, right? But the release is the end of the whip. So if I'm holding a whip and the only way I can control the end of the whip is from the handle. I can't change the middle of the whip. It's already, the energy and the momentum is already moving. So the release is the cause. I mean, it's the result. The cause is where I came from, right? So being on time, being sequenced is the hand coming in as the hips are turning, right? It's like this time, but if I turn and my hand's down, I'm out, and you see the body make movements to compensate for it. So like I used to do it too in myself, and I see is like we're coaching the compensation of missing the sequence rather than teaching them how to be in sequence and then teaching them how to repeat that. And it's all about it's like you have to wait, hand comes in, okay, go, boom. But if you come up and you go, you can feel it somewhere, and the body's telling you it wasn't in sequence. You can feel it. So the questions to the thrower when you're explaining or when you're teaching yourself is like, okay, where did I feel in sync? What was my mindset? Because like Alex was saying, it's exactly true. You get on the mound, you want to throw harder, but the acceleration happens through finish. The flex happens through finish. But if I hurry to land, if I hurry to front foot plant, I'm flying open because I'm compensating because I didn't allow myself to get through sequence or be on time. So that on time is when the hand comes in and now I whip. And the whip is like Alex was saying, is like I'm letting the body it just throws itself. That's just what happens.
So if you, in explaining all of this, where do you kind of implement Virgil and Alex, both as pitching coaches, where can you implement this with your athletes? Is this something you do and can implement during those 5 days in between starts or 6 days in between starts for you, Al? How would you go about integrating if you need to work on this and this is where the product comes into play? How do you integrate it into that throwing program? What are the times where you would use it? Now, the Jaeger Sports routine is obviously geared around more of pre-throw, as Jim mentioned. You would do that roughly almost every day, Jim, as in terms of getting ready to throw and enhancing that portion. Where would you, as with the perfect throw, and it's position player or pitcher specific, where would you implement that into the routine? Is that a bullpen day is the best day? Is it a non-pen day? What's your thoughts on that?
Virgil, I'll go first with this, but not just because we're on the podcast, but all our guys do their J bands first, right? We stretch as a team and then the J bands. So it's bands. I usually have bands personal, like that's our second thing. So anything personal that you feel like you need to do after that. And then if there's a protocol for me with a certain guy with a perfect throw, it's right then. It's anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute of, or excuse me, 30 seconds to about 5 minutes of maybe using the original, which is our longer version, and then maybe the shorty with repeatable movement patterns or individual movement patterns to start to sync up the body and feel like you're sequencing the right way. But it's a couple things. So, one of the things is it's another piece of that warm up of, like Jim said, like you go, oh yeah, let me get that out of there. Oh, there's the same thing that's happening with the J band. So guys will use it then, but like I mentioned the other day, there's a number of other ways to use it. Guys will take it out to the line and actually use it while they're throwing. So they'll throw 5 balls, they'll pick up the perfect throw. Oh, that's where I was kind of disconnected right there. And so on and so forth. So there's many different ways, but Virg, you want to talk about some of the other ways, that we hit on a couple of them last week, but other ways you would implement it?
Yeah, for sure. Warm up. There's if you're just short, it's warm up, it's arm patterning, or it's rehab. So like one of my friends, she just got Tommy John, and she's a thrower, and she's using it to bring herself back, because you can hold the secured ball, right? So there's 3 grips, but the secured ball or the pipe grip, and you can move at any speed. So then you have like a little implement, and you can feel some different momentum and arcs moving through your pattern. So she's using it for that to practice her throwing and like improve her patterns. And then definitely the warm up, like Alex was saying, and then from arm patterning, like, oh, I need a feeling, like, okay, I need a feeling. But if you have the feeling, you just get it going, you rev it up, you rev after your J bands, and then let it eat. Let's go.
Just to add one thing that I forgot too, sometimes I'll have guys that use it, very sparingly, right? Like we feel like they move correctly, so we may not give it to them a lot. It's only as a reminder, like I got to grab this to feel it again. But some of those guys that maybe were using different implements, whether it be a plyo ball or something like that, to try to sync them up. If I can't get them, or that's a bad way to say it. If the athlete can't feel what we're talking about, then I'll put the implement in his hand as another stimulus. And again, I know we keep saying it like it's like a tagline, but because the drill is the instruction, like they understand when they lift and turn and the ball hits them in the shoulder or the ball hits them in the head, they can self-correct. And I think that's really important, again, because we don't want to put it, all right, put your hand inside 90. Okay, now throw. We don't want to do that. We want their body to be able to figure out how it's going to move most efficiently. So when we can't get that across to the athlete, or you can't feel it, then we put the implement in his hand, and it's like this. It's not instantaneous, but when it happens, they can feel it. So now the most important part of that is they can now start to repeat that, and then start to get that to be more ingrained in what they're doing.
So essentially, your product can be used, quote unquote, without supervision, which is really important right now. Everybody's in some type of quarantine. They may not have, our guys don't have coaches readily available. The pro level right now doesn't. So that product at a time like this, as well as J-bands and the arm circles program, these are things that athletes can do on their own, quote unquote, without, as you say, the drill is the instruction, guys. This is, for right now, the state of where we are. These products are ultra important, in my opinion, because it keeps guys being able to have that visual or that audible experience of being able to self-correct.
I like that, the internal audible experience.
See, that's why I'm here, right? For my
internal audible experience.
But it does give you that.
I'm writing it down. I love it.
That's
not easy. That's not easy to get, right? That's not easy to get. That's something that makes this unique in my mind, because I can stand in my kitchen and know if I'm doing this correctly. And I don't need Virgil Vasquez, and I don't need Alex Trezza or Jim Vatcher or anyone to tell me if I'm doing it properly. I'm going to tell myself, which I think, to me, creates a better athlete, creates a smarter athlete, and obviously ultimately helps you perform better. So I think these two products, especially in the state of where we are right now, are, again, just ultra important for training, keeping guys in line. It's a game of habit, if anything, baseball, and a game of repetition, correct repetition. So in closing, that to me is the value. And that can come anywhere. I can do this Christmas Day in New York City when it's 28 degrees outside. Doesn't matter. I can still get work in. Jim, you and I and Alan have always talked about a good J-band routine taxes your arm just as much as long tossing outside does. So for people in the Northeast like me, we're stuck in here, doing these things can keep you almost in shape, game ready, without throwing a baseball, keep you mechanically sound, and do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do without them. And that's what, to me, a value in a product is that. I want something that'll get me to another level this way and without, quote unquote, supervision, right? And I think these things are going to go a long way for that. Next week, we will have a demo. I'm going to put, Alex or Virgil or both on the spot. We will demo your product. Jim, if you can handle it, I don't know.
Jim's got a couple. Look at Jim's got a couple back there.
Yeah, Jim will use you as a guinea pig. These guys are the experts. We'll use you as someone that's just picking it up to give people that sense of, either it is difficult or it's not. I mean, if you come out with a lot of bruises on the back of your neck, then, we'll know. You're still a high level athlete. I mean, so we have faith in you. In closing, just remind everyone where we can find you guys, where we can find the product. Jim, I know on social media it's at Jaeger Sports on Twitter. Anywhere else we can find you guys from Jaeger Sports, Jim?
JaegerSports.com, and we're in Dick's Sporting Goods. We have bands there. They're, I think, in every Dick's Sporting Goods. I don't know if they still are because of what's going on, but yeah, easy to find us. And we're very easy to get a hold of. If you need to ask questions, you can contact us at Jim at Jaeger Sports. I'll answer any question if anytime.
And obviously next, revolutionthrowing.com, I know is the website. Virgil, Alex, where else can we find you guys social media wise? Where can we get the product? Just spill it all out there for us.
Virg, me? Yeah, Revolution. Sorry,
just shout it out when you know. Just shout it out.
RevolutionThrowing.com, at Revolution Throwing, Instagram, same at Twitter. Virgil and I, Alex at Revolution Throwing, Alex at Revolution Throwing, Virgil at Revolution Throwing. You can find us, hit us up, send us a message. We'll get back to you as quickly as possible. We love the interaction with everyone. So hopefully we'll be in Dick's Sporting Goods soon. Look for us in there next to Jim's and Jim and Alan's product.
Yeah, we'll have our own rack. It'll be fantastic.
I love it.
Folks, we are going to be doing this, like I said, weekly basis. This is the new Everyday Throwing, basically sponsored by Jaeger Sports and Revolution Throwing, although I don't ask them for a dime, so maybe that's my fault, but they are the sponsors of the show. We will have guests as we go. We will be talking in depth about a lot of throwing related topics, not only the two products we discussed tonight, which, obviously hit close to home, but there will be a wide variety of guests that do come on, and this, at the end of the day, will hopefully make everyone better. And if not, at least open your mind. And that, to me, is a very important thing, because you can never stop learning. You never stop getting better. Take care, everyone. Let's stay 6 feet apart. Let's wash our hands. Let's stay safe. Soon enough, hopefully we'll be out of this, back on fields, back doing what we all want to do. Guys, thank you again. It's always a pleasure. We will be back at it next week for episode 2. You just saw the inaugural episode. Episode 2 will be next week. Stay on the lookout. Take care, everybody.